Hello, hello. All right, we're going to start. If there's stragglers out there, come on in. We're going to get started. We're here to talk about artificial intelligence and education, specifically K12, but we won't limit it to that. So I'm curious why you guys are here. You can help guide what our panelists talk about. When you think about AI, are you interested in how it changes what kids should know or how they use it in school? What do you think, Chris?
Concerns about kids being able to make decisions. So how much is the AI making decisions? How much are the kids making it? And kind of almost that locus of control. Yeah.
Let's make it a triangle and add the parent and the advisor, and how much of it becomes the recommendation from AI versus the kid or the trusted adult relationship. Great. Other things? What comes to mind on AI for K12? What do you most want to get out of the panel?
Yeah, very similar. Like, how do we primarily as a support instead of, for example, a decision maker or scheduler?
Mm-hmm. Sujata Bhatt, the famous. What do you want to learn?
I'm interested in how we can use it to build better systems, both at central office levels and as well as personalized learning systems.
Good. And JR, what's on your mind when you think about AI in K12?
I think the main thing for me is how administrators can use the data that they own, the data that they have, out of the many, many systems that they have it in. And that's really hard. And I don't think people are ready to do anything related to AI until they get a grip on the data that they've got.
So, there's things like Bright Bytes today, but sort of the next generation of super smart systems that really add intelligence. Jillian, you've been thinking about the future for 15 years. So no, there's all of us here are fans of your early work. You were like the first futurists in education. What on this topic, what do you think about? What do you want us to talk about?
Really interested in the whole idea of how AI can assist with the teaching function, right? With teachers in the way they're looking at students, so that teachers themselves can do what only humans can do, right? And interact and build relationships and offhand some of the more tedious bits of teaching to AI in a more sophisticated way than maybe they can even accomplish.
Good. Yeah.
Sure, I'm curious to know what we should be teaching kids about the topic of AI as they're preparing and thinking of, hey, my next job is going to be working with a robot. What do I need to know about that topic?
So I paid Stephen $20 to say that because that's a great cue for Christina Gardner-McCune. She's a prof at Florida, and she's the co-chair of AI for K12. It's been around for about a year. She co-chairs it with Dave Turetsky from Carnegie Mellon, and it's a national group of computer scientists that are working on the question that Stephen just asked. So Christina, kick us off and answer his question. What should kids know about AI?
Well, kids should know the 5 big ideas in AI. So our steering committee is made up of AI experts as well as K-12 educators, and so we came up with these 5 perceptions, how computers actually see and get information. The second one is representation and reasoning, so how do AI think? How does it work? The third one is around learning, so how does AI learn? Like, where's the data coming from? Where's the bias? Helping them understand how these systems are built. The fourth is about natural interactions. So how can you have natural interactions with AI, and what does it mean? How does AI understand emotions? Does it do it the same way that humans do? And the fifth one is about social impacts and ethics. So helping people actually understand and students actually understand, what are the positive things that AI is doing in our society, but also what are some of the negative unintended consequences that we haven't quite thought about that we need to be thinking about. So that way we can have intelligent conversations about them.
So Christina, on the subject of bias and how bias is introduced into AI, would that be in that last category?
It actually would be kind of throughout.
Okay.
Because bias comes in perception. If you have a dark room, you're not able to see darker faces, right? So that's the first source of bias that, now these machines can't, tell the difference between a person that's my complexion and maybe Tessa's complexion. But it comes in also in how you're representing data. What is the type of information you're thinking is important and valuing that factors into the reasoning that happens. Also in the machine learning, what is the large data set that you're providing? So it's actually throughout all of the big ideas.
Okay. And this isn't just for big kids. You're chunking it all the way down to primary.
Yes, so we have teachers that are helping us think about what this looks like in K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 12, and then looking at, how to, for K2, they can't learn anything about AI, but they can. Because really it's about how do you learn about yourself and what are the senses that we use to make sense and reason, and then helping students understand that as well.
So we have a great panel. Let me quickly introduce the other ones. Tess Posner runs AI for All, a great nonprofit in Oakland that has created partnerships with 10 leading universities, and they're introducing machine learning to underrepresented populations. Started with girls in Oakland. Andrew Chen from ReadyAI, a great company that's working with schools all over America, increasingly around the world, and Michelle Zimmerman is head of school at one of our favorite micro schools, Renton Prep. She's also the author of a new book called Teaching AI, which we have featured on Getting Smart. I'm curious if any of you want to make a friendly amendment or want to stress something that Christina talked about. Like, what do you think is most important to teach kids about AI? Tess, what would you add to the list?
Yeah, well, I'm very fortunate and excited that we're part of this group, and it's great. So I wouldn't change anything on that list, but I would add that I think a lot of young people, or people in general, have misconceptions about AI, that it's scary or that you need a PhD to get started. But actually, that's not true at all, and you can get started as early as, early children on it. And so I think busting the misconceptions, and also part of why AI for All started was actually to address the diversity crisis in AI. Right now it's being built by a very homogenous group of technologists, and so what we're seeing is that people don't have a lot of role models that look like them in the field, and that inhibits their sense that they can be part of it, or even what's possible with the technology. So I think introducing young people to the diversity of applications, this isn't just about coding, it's also about applying AI to solving problems across many different industries, and that anyone from any background can get started, that you don't need a PhD, and it's not just about killer robots. So I think a lot of demystification as well as lifting up diverse role models is really critical.
Great. We'll come back and talk about your program. Andrew, anything that a friendly amendment?
Yes, I want to emphasize on the AI education should be cover 100% of students, not just the 5% of students who is going into the computer science, or 10% going into.
This is not just for a few high school kids that are interested in coding. This is stuff everybody needs to know.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Michelle, what would you underscore?
I would say that some people are even thinking not just computer science classes, but even if the schools don't have technology yet, they should be talking about this, discussing this, and bringing in all those applications from philosophy to the arts to things in law, because that's one of the things that people may not think about until later and go, oops, we didn't figure out what to do for regulation here. And knowing that there are kids who are fascinated by law or wanting to possibly go into that career and say, this is completely relevant for you. For little kids who are interested in the arts and collaborative things or being very social, this is relevant for you. And to start talking about the way those types of careers will come together, even at a really early age.
Can you guys hear? The mic levels seem low to me, but I'm half deaf. Give us a little volume if you can. Christina, the list sounded to me, I just listened to a podcast on killer robots, so I'm kind of freaked out right now by existential threats. It's on the Future Life Institute podcast, in case, if you want kind of a bummer, just check that out. This is like all the shit you ought to be really freaked out about. Nuclear annihilation. But that podcast suggested, in addition to a bunch of really cool benefits, there's some really bad shit that could go down. Is that on your list?
Yes.
So where would we deal with the, oh wow, this could go wrong, like really wrong?
So we deal with that both in Big Idea 4, which is around natural interactions.
Okay.
So actually helping people understand that, AI, there's artificial intelligence, that's general artificial intelligence, which is what everybody has is the ideal artificial intelligence that's going to replace humans. We're not there yet by any stretch of the measure. AI is more domain specific, and it solves very specific problems. So we talk about that in Big Idea 4. In Big Idea 5, we talk about, the fact that designers are making AI, right? And they have choices and ethics, and that comes into the societal impacts and ethics for Big Idea 5.
So the other thing that I'm kind of freaked out about is income inequality. I mean, it feels to me like if America was pissed off in 2016 that, like, just wait until 2024 when it's really evident that AI is helping to aggregate the benefit and wealth around AI, and that it's going to become really evident that sharing, how we share the benefit and how we share the wealth, is going to be super important. So you guys are struggling with some of those ethical and social studies considerations, right?
Yeah, I think we haven't quite specced out everything that's going to be in the societal impact Big Idea, but I feel like a lot of that's going to be addressed there when we start talking about a lot of those things.
Michelle, I visited Renton Prep a few weeks ago. You start some of these tough conversations pretty early, and you talk about that in your book, right?
Yes. We want them to start really thinking about even classic philosophy problems like the trolley problem, being able to see things that are on TED Ed videos, those animated videos, just to get them to start thinking about it, and then abstracting those slightly farther out to say, what would it look like in this scenario? And it starts really blowing their minds because they go, well, but if it's like this, then what about this? And they go, wait, what does this have to do with coding? And it has absolutely everything to do with computer science and the direction of designing, but it may not be immediately evident to the kids that this is a direct correlation between these conversations unless you have an adult or another older student mentor who's helping push that thinking for transfer, that learning across from one domain to the next.
On Saturday, I was in Providence, and I did a session with Justin Aglio from the Montour School District. It's Montour School District, and they've introduced an AI ethics course co-authored by the MIT Media Lab. It's open on and available on both of those sites. And so I love the fact that they're engaging middle school kids, not only in understanding the basics of the technology, but asking the questions that we've been talking about: income, inequality, potential risk, bias inherent in some data sets. So great to see a growing number of school districts around the country doing this. Tess, let's talk about AI for All. Tell us how the program started and how you're scaling it.
Yeah, so it started with some of the things that we're talking about, really both the risk of AI, but also the opportunity in AI. And it started as a summer camp for girls at Stanford University, where the lab director there and her PhD students were feeling the impact of the diversity crisis in AI. And they started a summer camp, and they found that getting high school girls working on AI for good projects had an incredible transformative impact. Over 90% of the girls wanted to go into AI after the program. And so that's how our organization was born. And since then, we've been expanding. This summer, we're going to be at 11 locations, 11 universities, including ASU, which we're really excited about, across the US. And so we focus on recruiting underrepresented students, including girls, low-income kids, and minorities into the camps. We teach them at universities that do AI research because we want to get the young people engaged in actually doing this research with the top talent in the field and seeing what are the implications, what are the risks, but what are the opportunities? How does AI improve healthcare delivery? How does it relate to environmentalism? How does it connect with their deep passions inside? We also have an alumni program that supports the students after the summer camp and into their careers in AI if that's what they decide to do. 61% of our alumni in high school have already started AI research projects or AI clubs at their schools. And we're talking about things like how to track and monitor wildfires, how to help kids with autism, how to help diagnose dyslexia. And many of our students have gone on to win national awards and prizes around this, including at big AI conferences like NeurIPS, which one of our students won Best Healthcare Award for her paper on improving surgeon precision and technique using AI. So if we bring more people into the field, especially starting at an early age, we're going to see better results with what is actually created with AI, as well as how to better equally distribute the impact and the benefit financially and economically that we know that this will drive. So that's really our vision for the future, and we're super excited to be expanding this summer.
And Tess, do they get a chance to mess around with some of the open tools in machine learning? Things like TensorFlow Lite?
They even make it all the way to TensorFlow. Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
It's very technical and rigorous. It's definitely a boot camp, but no coding is required.
Okay.
But they do a little bit of Python at the beginning and then start getting into the hands-on projects.
Yeah. I mean, one thing some folks may not know, there's a lot of super powerful open tools that are available, and things like TensorFlow Lite from Google, you can run on a powerful mobile device. So machine learning seems out of reach, but there's an Azure, an open version from Microsoft. There's really powerful open tools. Usually what kids need is some encouragement to think about the data set around a problem they're interested in, and then some help with the data science of how to collect and cleanse a data set, and then some advice on which tool might be most useful. Listened to a podcast that we did with Olin College, Aman Milner, about 2 weeks ago. He's a coding ninja at Olin, the most well-regarded engineering school in the world, according to a recent MIT study. And he helps teams of kids, young people, tackle big problems and then think about the data sets and then the appropriate tools to aim at those data sets. So in some ways, yours is a junior version of that, right? It's the high school version of that problem-solving approach. Is it hard to get AI experts from leading universities to work with high school kids, or is it a mixture of profs and grad students? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a mixture of professors as well as grad students and some undergrads. We actually have way too much demand that we can't even deal with because it's slow and it takes a long time to bring on a university. But there's actually a ton of interest because everyone across the board is feeling the burn of the talent gap and are looking for diverse talent. That's not just in companies, but also in labs, in research labs and universities.
Yeah.
So they have an interest in developing this future talent pipeline.
That's cool. Most of your programs are summer school. Are some of them turned into credit-bearing courses as well?
They're all summer camps, except
Summer camps?
we're launching a new program this month, actually, that's completely different, and it's an online-enabled program called the Open Learning Program. And what this is basically taking the learnings from our summer camp and making the curriculum available for free online, focused on underrepresented populations and communities, and again with this project-based approach that we've found that it sparks like wildfire young people's interest to actually give them the power to solve problems that they care about using these tools. So for every one student that AI for All educates, they go on to educate 14 more on average, just with the programs and clubs that they start.
That's awesome. Christina, this is cool, right?
This is awesome.
That's awesome. Andrew, you offer AI in a box, kind of a bundle of great AI resources, and you sponsor a competition. Maybe you could tell us why a competition is a great entry point for young people.
Okay, competition is just a platform for conversation. With project-based AI learning, the competition can be a way to present the student's creation. And if you're familiar with exhibition day in the project-based learning concepts, the competition, what we call VAC, World AI Competition for Youth, is just a fancy way of doing an exhibition day plus a set of judging rubrics so that the student can show their creation. So last July, we had set the first VC competition on CMU campus. There were 65 teams attended.
Was that at Montour or at CMU?
No, at CMU.
CMU? Great.
At CMU is the first annual world competition. And after that, we did about 10 regional competition at school.
Cool.
So you think this competition is just a format to showcase the student creation after the project-based learning. So that was very successful. We get buy-in from different levels. Say at the student level, they just love competition. They cry and they laugh. And also in the competition format, it gives them this sense of excitement, engagement. And the kids just love to present their projects again and again. And also at the...
And what ages are we talking about? Like what grade? Is it middle?
Yeah. In last year, we had 250 participants aging from age 4 to 20. So it covered all the spectrum of K through 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were in 4 countries, five different time zones. About 100 students participated remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a test case that we make sure it works. And also the competition can gain the buy-in of the stakeholders. We have a strong stakeholder that is Professor Andrew Moore from, he was a former dean of School of Computer Science at CMU. Now he has a Google AI division. He came to the opening ceremony, gave a speech, and he was so excited that he came back again as an award ceremony. He's a busy guy. And also that in one of the regional competitions that Justin Aglio did at Montour, he led one of the principals to be the judge. So that actually got the immediate buy-in from the school management. Yeah, and also we get a lot of buy-in from the parents also.
I got a quick quote from Christina's co-chair, Dave Turetsky. They use Dave's Calypso software in their competitions, and Dave has been a judge, and he says it's this interesting mixture of computer science and artistry, which makes the competition really interesting because it really does not just require coding, but also creativity. Is that fair?
Yes, yes. In last year's VC, we only had the ReadyAI curriculum. All the teams used ReadyAI curriculum because this whole area is so new. But this year, we are open to all the platforms. If you have Sphero, the Lego, the other platforms, or even unplugged AI, everybody's welcome to the competition.
And they can find you at readyai.com?
Yeah, readyai.org or wacy.org, WAICY.
WACY is W-A-C-Y.
W-A-I-C-Y.
AICY.org.
World Artificial Intelligence Competition for Youth. And also the competition can be at the schools level, regional level, the state level, and the international level.
Michelle, you just wrote a book on this called Teaching AI. It's a great book. What'd you learn? What's the 3-minute abstract?
I learned a lot. I had a much different perception of AI even a year before I started working on this. One of mine was actually telling my students in the next 20 years, 40 years, maybe 40 to 50% of the jobs as we know them will be gone. And I was really grateful to have connections inside Microsoft, some researchers who had been working in that field for years. And I said, okay, so what would you tell these kids? What would you say to teachers? And one of the most common things was please help demystify some of this and make sure you're not building up hype. And I had a great conversation with Jonathan Gruden, who said, as a tennis coach, you can imagine what it would be like to try and motivate someone day in and day out. You can do some things with AI, but there's still an essential role for these people who are there to support a lot of different fields, everything from sports to the creative arts to medicine. And he was really essential in shaping my thoughts for this and then delving into different patterns and ideas. So even as I started talking with my students in a different way, I wanted them to see that there's more to it than just maybe all of our jobs will be gone and we'll go into mass hysteria and panic, even though I didn't take it to that extent. But it became more of a process of looking at things with my students and saying, what types of jobs exist? What do we know from people who are working in these fields now? And really bringing in voice from people from all over the world and hearing their perceptions, the things that they were afraid of, and where we're going now.
So JR talked about data systems that are going to better inform decisions. Maybe we could think about that for administrators, and Jillian talked about sort of teaching assistants that could close that triangle that Chris and I were talking about. What would you say you're most excited about when you look out 36 months and you're pretty sure that what aspect of running Renton Prep is going to be better because of AI?
Some things we're using right now, like McGraw-Hill's Alex, to be able to help adapt where they are in mathematics at the same time as they're working with the teacher, and being able to use things that are really helping them emphasize creativity and storytelling, like Sway, that has machine learning underlying that. But then the hope of merging multiple of these types of pieces with mixed reality and being able to have assessment systems for educators that help notify them and say, go talk to this student. This is an area that they can use extra support, or give them a high five. I've talked to several people who said that physical human contact makes a huge difference. So there are pieces that are already in existence that need just like this next little piece that can really, I think, be built in within the next 36 months.
Tess, same question for you. Like, what are you most excited about? What would you most like to bring into your, the next 10 programs that you roll out?
Yeah, I'm really excited, I think, about, we're focusing heavily on recruiting students from the South and the Midwest. And so what I'm thinking about is who's really getting left behind, because this is all great, but when we really see where AI is getting concentrated, it's not equally distributed. So what I'd like to see in 12 to 36 months, or 12 to 24 months, is really getting more students from those areas engaged and actually building solutions that they care about for their community. Because I think, what's out there and what AI is capable of doing is very limited because of who's in charge of building it. So we need more equally distributed access to see its full potential.
No, that's great. I mean, the technology is moving so fast that we really got to mobilize quickly, or we'll exacerbate the gap, because we'll have schools like Renton Prep where kids are jazzed and equipped, and then thousands of schools where they're not even having the conversation. Christina, what are you jazzed about?
I'm jazzed about working with AI developers and teachers to create new resources so kids can actually look under the hood of AI and understand how it works, not just interact with it and play with it, but they actually understand how it works and they can build their own artifacts to solve problems.
We have 10 minutes left or so. Curious if you have any questions, things that you're jazzed about. We could start with that. What are you excited about? What would you love to see in the next 36 months?
It's partially a question, partially I'm excited about. I love the idea of diving into data and looking for these insights and building systems around that. One thing I think we have some work to do is, what does it look like to appropriately share data between foundations, corporations, and school districts? I think we all have an interest in gaining insights and support through those partnerships, but we need to find a good way to transport and use the data safely.
Cool. Anybody want to take that one on?
I think it's really messy, and it's going to be really a challenge to try and figure that out, especially since we don't know what's going on with all of the data and how it's going to help in different ways, but we know it's really important.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with data transparency. So there's this big movement in AI about transparent AI. And so I think it's about AI developers and also, leaders actually thinking about what is the data we're collecting, how are we going to use it, and making that public for students, for parents, for everybody to see, so that they can understand, well, what decisions did you make and what data did you use to make those decisions? And I think transparency is going to be key for us to be able to really trust the AI technologies that we're inviting into our lives.
There's a lot of different versions of this question, right? So there's the building learner profiles privacy problem, and then there's the challenges that Tess is dealing with of asking kids to step into community problems and accessing data. So there's several different versions of of the access to data, the privacy associated with data. So great question. Another one? Yeah, either something you're excited about or a question for them. Robert?
So it's been said 40 to 50% of the jobs down the road are going to be AI related. So how do we calibrate our K-12, particularly K-8 students to this world that they're going to be exposed to 10 years down the line? What are some thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I would actually say in terms of jobs that are going to be augmented at a minimum, I think we're looking at a much, much higher percentage, more than twice that. Most jobs are in some way going to be working with augmented technology. So what would you say, Andrew?
Yeah, I think there will be a new job created also, but the key is that to have the students being AI literate, to understand what the AI meant. AI is a very new subject if you consider that introduced into the K-12 system. So what to teach, and how to measure is all up to the educators. The AI education at the start is half computational and half societal. So when it comes to the classroom, you have to teach both. You have to address the data analysis part as well as the ethics part. So in this, I think, so through the project-based learning probably is a natural way of getting it moving. So it's, I was at the AAAI conference. They are coming up with next 25 years of AI roadmap of the US. They have only one line for their expectation about AI education, that is from K to grade. So that is everybody. So the urgency is there.
Yeah. And I definitely know with us, with the guidelines, that's our passion, is to figure out what do kids need to know and be able to do, and thinking about that early, right? We get a lot of people that are like, people can't learn it in kindergarten, but they can, right? They can. It's about making it appropriate, grade appropriate, and that's what our goal is, to create guidelines that are grade appropriate so that teachers can introduce it and integrate it in. So our K-2 grade band is amazing. They're thinking about how do you help people, how do you help students learn about their own body and their own senses and their own ways that they think and make decisions, and associating that with AI as well. So I think there's a good stretch of AI education that can happen in K-8.
Tess?
I'm actually pretty worried about this because today only 35% of schools in the US even teach computer science, and we're talking about AI, which, you know, you're looking at the people who are doing this, which I rarely hear about it.
No,
so how are we going to move fast
enough? There's like six. There's a couple, small group.
So yeah, how are we going to move fast enough? Like this is urgent.
Yeah.
One thing Michelle and I share in common is a belief that project-based learning is really important. JR and I do sessions pretty often. You talk about confidence. Say a few words on why you think that's important for kids to develop.
Yeah, and I'm actually hearing this underlying what a lot of you are saying is, I would love to see children build up the confidence to use the technology in ways, in other words, learn about the relevancy of the tech, not just how to push the buttons and how to code. So we talk a lot about how to code, and that's such a great process, and what's happened in code.org and other things for the awareness is fine. But I would love to see more confidence in appropriate use of technology to solve problems, to understand, well, when would I use that solution to solve a problem? So we were talking, and I feel like this is really important, which is, it's not a computer science learning effort, it's all subjects. Let me make sure an economics major knows how to apply not just AI, but other things, AI being included. And a marketing person obviously needs to know this, and even a humanities person, social sciences, there's so many reasons to use the tech, but I don't think we're teaching enough when to use the tech. We're just teaching the tech. It's like, oh, you're computer science, you should learn it.
And that's exactly where I was wanting to go with it, that it's the integration of multiple subjects.
Yeah.
Our brains have a beautiful capacity to be able to make sense of things as they intersect, where you have something that looks like it's completely unrelated, and we can find a way to make sense of that in a way that machines can't. That's a very, I would say in some ways, simple solution where you may not have technology or teach coding in your schools, but just starting to combine multiple subjects and challenging kids to think in that way is something that can be done even if there's not funding for technology.
Right.
And those pieces I think are going to be crucial, because the more machines are starting to be able to process faster than humans, we won't be able to keep up with that speed, but we can do these kinds of things where it intersects domains, finds differences for things, knows when to move a wire out of a process of a machine that goes, have to stop, this wire's in the wrong place. That our brains can do that, and yet most schools don't teach kids how to do that because most teachers haven't been trained in that way, and it doesn't feel like that's a necessary emphasis. It's segmented and blocked out.
So build on JR's comment, this is why we advocate for design thinking, computational thinking, inquiry-based learning, giving more kids extended challenges that are open-ended in nature, asking them to walk into complexity and building the confidence that they know what to do first, so that more math looks more like AI for all. Problem solving, data science, using smart tools. You had a question?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So, you guys are inspirational. Seriously, like what you're doing is, probably, unfortunately, hopefully, it's not like 2 decades ahead of its time, and that's the question, which is the concern that AI is actually a subset of computer science, as opposed to, I guess, computer science being a subset of AI, and AI in fact spans everything that we will touch and breathe and get involved with. So in terms of administrators and, how do you sort of change the narrative, and what, I'd love your thoughts around that, at scale. Like, how can we do that in 36 months? Because, if we wanted to do that. So that's
Okay.
So I'm gonna, I'll expand it slightly, and in the last couple minutes, what should people do next? How do we get more people to do the things that you're doing? More scientists working on this, more after-school programs, more schools that are awesome and incorporating AI, more vendors that are creating cool kits. So each of us give a quick sort of 30 seconds, what to do next. Michelle, go. How do we get more schools to do this?
I would say get them to the point where they're not scared of things yet by saying combine multiple subjects. That is really scary in and of itself. But before you get to even the technical pieces, to start getting that mindset shift.
And read Teaching AI. You can find it on Amazon right now. We
Direct
we have a blog called Getting Started with AI, and we have a link to 9 books on the topic that range from sort of practitioner to expert, and all these guys are linked in that resource. But start reading and then go visit schools that are doing good work. Go to Montour in Pittsburgh, go to South Fayette, go to Renton Prep.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Okay, I want to say the AI education is definitely not 20 years away. It's now. And to get the student engaged, so what we do is to have things ready. If you don't have a kit, we have AI in the box. If you don't have curriculum, we have curriculum. If you have a summer camp, we give you a summer camp curriculum program. So the teacher can use AI to teach art, teach history, teach other things, rather than fight a zero-sum game. If I add AI, which subject do I drop? Don't fight that game. Use AI to help other subjects learning. That's the beauty of AI.
They can find you at readyai.org.
Yes.
Tess, what should people do?
Totally +1 to both of those. And like I mentioned, we're launching this open learning program, which is built for high school students as well as for teachers to run local clubs or projects in their communities. And so I'd say, just to build on what's been said before, in addition to how it's interdisciplinary, which is really critical, and there are great resources out there, let's make sure everyone has access to this and not just a few.
So, speaking of after-school programs, I did a podcast last week with the kids from Covina High, and it was actually the kids it was a German teacher who lost all the sessions of German and started learning coding. He did keyboarding and then coding, and he started an after-school program. And he admitted that he didn't know what he was doing. He was learning right along with the kids. And it was actually the kids that identified AI as a monster trend, told him it was a big frickin' deal, started looking for experts. I was on their list of people thinking about this. They called me up. And so these kids are informing their community by having the conversation. And it was really because the teacher was brave enough to say, I don't know, but here's how we could investigate it together and become learners together. So you don't have to be an expert. You just have to create conditions where kids can learn. All right, Christina, take us out. What should we do?
What you should do is go to aifork12.org. Awesome. Visit our website. We have resources for you to use in the classroom with your students. We're working on guidelines, so we'll be releasing those in the next upcoming months. So follow us and just get an idea. I guess don't be scared. I like that idea of not being scared, because our whole goal is to help people understand AI is not magic, and also realize that we know from K to 8 it's going to be integrated into something else that students are already learning about. So everybody needs to join that
Christina
conversation.
and I are on an email chain together, and we get inundated with 6 emails a day from 100 people that are on the same list. And
yeah, we're up to about 200 people on our mailing list.
So we're sharing resources and we're learning together. So join a network, read a book, go visit some schools, check out the resources from the best in the business. Join me in thanking our panel for what they're doing.